Hello, welcome back. It's Dr. Jen. So this podcast will be super exciting. I'm super excited to talk with Crystal Sikes. So I have been friends with her on Instagram for the past couple of years and have really enjoyed getting to know her that way. So she's a woman that wears many hats. She is a wife, a mom, a business owner, a coach, a homemaker, and of course, much more. And she and her husband, Robert Sikes, he's also known as Keto Savage. They own Keto Brick, which I love. Live Savage Apparel, Deeper State Keto, and Robert also runs Keto Savage, and Crystal runs her own business as well, Lady Savage. Crystal has enjoyed her ketogenic lifestyle for the past 7 years through bodybuilding competitions, pregnancy, breastfeedings, and all that life throws at her. Weight training and the ketogenic diet truly changed her life and helped her turn her health around. She's passionate about helping others create a lifestyle that is sustainable and gives people an excitement for life. Welcome, Crystal. So excited to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and I love your Instagram. Everyone needs to go follow her at Lady Savage. Very just motivating. And especially I've loved watching you through your pregnancy and postpartum. And it's just been really great to see you and how motivating you are.
Thank you. That means a lot. Sometimes you put stuff out there and you're like, why am I even posting? But I'm glad that it can be motivating.
Yeah, I agree. I think that sometimes just sharing what you do on a normal basis is really helpful, and you never know who needs to hear that day. And just in the momhood, just to know that we're not alone in this
Mhm.
craziness.
Yeah, absolutely.
So start out a little bit by telling us, how did you get into this keto lifestyle? And especially with your husband, Robert, kind of, just how did this grow? When did you start? All of that.
Yeah. So, gosh, okay. So I started about 7 years ago, and my husband, who I was just dating at the time, had actually already started keto. And he actually started it by accident. So it was not popular that like then. It kind of got popular, I'd say like maybe 5, 6 years ago. But he started doing carb backloading because he's always been a natural bodybuilder. So he started doing carb backloading for his bodybuilding endeavors. And then he's like, I feel so much better in the earlier part of the days than I do in the evening after I've had my carbs. So he just kind of started to play around with the idea of like not having the carbs in the evening and started looking a little bit more into it, found a couple of books that were kind of inspiring to him, but he hadn't found anyone that had done it for bodybuilding. So he said, I'm just going to give this a shot. So he started doing that. And in the meantime, I was struggling with a lot of gastric issues. I got diagnosed with gastroparesis, slow transit colon, and slew of things. You know, they throw the IBS thing in there, that all that. So I had gone through a ton with doctor's visits and things like that. Just no one could figure out a good diet plan for me. It was a struggle. They ended up putting me on a liquid diet, and a lot of it consisted of just a lot of like fruit. I was throwing a bunch of fruit in there and protein powder, and I was like not able to eat meats and vegetables and things like that. So it was just a struggle. And Robert said, you are going to give yourself diabetes and like a whole bunch of other issues if you keep this up. So he said, why don't you try the thing that I'm doing? I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. And I gave it a shot, and I actually hated it. And so I was like, I'm going to go back to doing what I was doing. And I actually felt worse. So I said, well, maybe I'll give it another shot. And we adjusted a few things, and I started doing full on keto. And then I just have not turned back, because slowly but surely, like every month, I started to feel better and better and better. It was not like an immediate, it was just like okay, I definitely feel better. I'm definitely not as bloated. I can definitely get in a little bit more food than I used to be able to. And just like slowly but surely, it just kind of went away and went away and went away. And so that's how got started. It was just such a random thing that Robert ran into it. And then I had all these issues, and one thing led to the next.
Well, it's amazing. And you were actively changing your gut health, with this diet change. And we see that a lot. And a lot of the times just the diet alone can heal, but that's crazy that you were basically just on a liquid diet and still feeling bad.
Yeah. It was pretty rough. And I mean, there was a long time of just running test after test after, they did not know what was wrong with me. And I finally was like, I'm going to give up. Saw one last person and she's like, let me do this test on you real quick. And it was the one where you lay under the machine and they have you eat something with a dye in it and then they watch it, go through your system. And she's like, yep, this is it. This is what's going on. So it was just, it felt like forever until we figured it out. And I finally told her, hey, I'm doing this different diet. And she said, well, that actually might help because fiber was a killer. They were pushing fiber on me so much. And it ended up actually being the one thing that was kind of harming my process of digestion. So yeah, it was interesting. It's such a process to get where I am now.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll even use carnivore diet a lot with patients that need to reset their gut. And I'll use that with pregnant and breastfeeding women because we can't, if there's a dysbiosis or imbalance of the gut bacteria, we can't just give them botanicals to fix that. So I'll use food as medicine and we'll reset their gut that way. Now, yeah, with keto, can you dive in a little bit for the listeners, what exactly that means? Like how many carbs? Do you throw in any carbs during certain parts of your cycles, like your luteal phase? How do you manage it as a woman? Because most of the studies are on men. So that's why I think what's so unique about you, especially through pregnancy and breastfeeding, you're not just a study, you're a woman that has hormones.
Yeah, totally. Mine are pretty consistently decently low carb. There's a lot of people who will do like 50 to 100. Mine are always below 35, I'd say. There's been times where I've done as low as 20, like staying under 20 and doing more like a carnivore base. But I would say more recently, and then during my pregnancy and breastfeeding, I was always around the 30, 35 grams of carb range. And a lot of the carbs there were coming from like raw milk, yogurt, some vegetables. This week I had like pumpkin seeds in there. It really kind of just depends, but I'm able to keep it pretty low just because that's what feels best for my gut. Because I will have flare-ups here and there depending on what I eat. Just a couple weeks ago, I posted, and you commented on that. I posted a salad, and it was literally just the greens because I took out the greens the rest of the week and I was totally fine. And it's not that greens are bad. It's just that it did not settle well with me. So I am able to keep mine a little bit lower, and I don't actually cycle anything during different parts of my cycle. I kind of just go with whatever I'm feeling. Like I'll have a couple of berries, like strawberries or something in my yogurt. But I don't do seed cycling or anything like that. I read into it and kind of looked into different things, but I haven't actually done it myself, nor have I really had any issues. So I know that can be helpful for certain people, but for me, it's been working pretty swiftly to just keep going the way I have.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'll do more keto, low carb, and then I'll get to my late luteal phase and I'll be like, carbs, but at the same time, I mean, it's tough. I need to stick with it more. I think that I'm a little bit jealous that, you and Robert are like, you're a team approach to it. So it's not like one person's going to be going and like saying, let's get ice cream, or, like Chip eats bread in front of me all the time, which I don't want the bread at the restaurant, but it's just annoying. So I think that would be a little bit easier. Yeah, I wish that I could just get, my husband on board, because I think that would be easier for the lifestyle. There wouldn't be those temptations, because I think that's when I struggle more with the lower carb, is that late luteal phase. But I have so many women in my practice wear continuous glucose monitors, and carbs are not our friends. I mean, for women, and I hate to say that, but especially as we age and get in our 40s and perimenopause and 50s, it's just, I've had so many women, they're like, yeah, I just can't eat carbs. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, we're really not supposed to eat tons of carbs. It's not like we were really made to just eat Fritos and Doritos all day and
Yeah.
Frappuccinos. Oh, like,
Yeah. Yeah. Once you start looking at it, you're like, oh my goodness. Like people will drink Frappuccinos, like an everyday thing. And you just think, do you have any idea what's inside of that? You don't, because then for lunch they're having a burger with fries and all the things. And honestly, if you're eating at home more frequently, you're gonna just naturally have a more clean diet, because you never know what they're putting in the food when you're eating out. So that's an additional hard thing. But yeah, it's amazing how many women are convinced that they need the carbs. And it's just, I also don't want to say that like the carbs are the devil, but it definitely can be beneficial to cut them out or cut them lower.
yeah, or even just try it, or do keto 2 weeks out of the month and then maybe increase the carbs a little bit. So,
Yeah.
tell us about your competition life. So I don't think I knew you competed, and then you posted that video and I was like, whoa. So tell us about that. I'm always intrigued by that.
Yeah. So Robert, again, has always been doing natural bodybuilding. And I thought, I'm never doing that. But during the time of transitioning into keto, my doctor was like, you need to get active. Your activity is going to help your mobility of your stomach, things like that. So I started training, and I was so embarrassed. I hated it in the beginning. I did not want to go to the gym. I was that typical girl who was like, people are going to judge me. So I did end up starting, and I kind of just got addicted to the aspect of like lifting a little bit heavier, and I just started to feel better. You feel more confident. There's so many benefits to it. So in 2018, we had moved from Washington State to Arkansas, where Robert is originally from. And I was like, let's do something fun. I'm going to do a competition. And I had never committed to it before. I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not stepping on stage in a bikini. There's not a chance. But I kind of just needed something, I think, for myself, and said, okay, I'm gonna do this. So Robert coached me all the way through, and it was awesome. I won first place, and then he proposed to me on stage. So
Oh, no way.
Yeah, it was
That
pretty
is so
awesome.
sweet. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Was he gonna propose if you didn't win?
I guess so. That would have been not as great, but it was pretty awesome.
He was confident, like all the way around. He's like, she's gonna take it home, and then I'm gonna get the girl. And that's awesome. So is there different competitions? Like you said, natural bodybuilding. I mean, but aren't drugs illegal in the bodybuilding? Or tell me about that. Explain that.
Yeah. So there is natural bodybuilding and there's untested, which yeah. So that is like the typical NPC, NPC, WNBF. No, that is the natural one. Sorry, I'm getting them all confused. But there's different federations that you can do even within like the natural bodybuilding realm. So you can choose kind of which federation you want to go with. In the natural bodybuilding aspect of things, there's even natural supplements like DHEA that's not allowed. You're not allowed to take that for like 2 years prior to competition day. In other federations, there's certain supplements that you're not allowed to take 7 years within the competition day. And it can be in things like pre-workout or, just such simple things that you really have to be aware. Robert just got some supplements sent to him, and it's all great natural stuff, but he's not allowed to take it. There's even a pre-workout with deer antler velvet in it.
Yes.
And you're not allowed to take that because it's technically a hormone.
It increases growth hormone.
Yes, growth hormone.
Yeah. So, okay, this is so interesting. So what about peptides? Because they can't really test for peptides, can they? Like,
No.
CGC, Epamorelin, and Tesamorelin. So I'm wondering, because those are, so for the listeners, those are growth hormone releasing hormones. So if you're looking to increase muscle, they're usually taken 3 times a day, 5 days on, 2 days off. But if you're looking just for a nice growth hormone, nice sleeping, it's just nightly, 5 days on, 2 days off. I love peptides, but are those banned in the natural?
I'm not sure. And Robert and I were just recently talking about that because they become more popular that we're not actually sure. We might have to look into it because I do think it could be really beneficial or helpful. But who knows if they're going to ban it or not. But each federation has a ban list. So you can look it up and make sure that it is or isn't. But yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely a struggle. Robert's in prep right now. He's about 5 weeks in. So
he looks great. I saw that. It's so fun to watch him. You guys have to follow him too, the listeners out there. I told my husband, I said, I'm like, we should do a bodybuilding. Like we should do, like when I'm done breastfeeding, I'm like, we should just like train together and we should compete together. And he got so offended. Now he doesn't listen to my podcast, so we can talk trash, but he got so offended. He like was like, why would you want to do that? And I'm like, to get out of our comfort zone and like push our bodies. Like, and you know, if you would work with someone like your husband and you're doing it safely. Like you're not, you know, because I know I've seen clients that you guys have worked with and they look fine after. It's not dangerous, you know, and I'm sure there's some coaches that do things that, you know, aren't good for your metabolism and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of like into it. I'm like, I should do one like in a couple of years just to see what my body can do and if I have the discipline. But yeah, I wonder about the peptides though. It's interesting because the BPC 157, I love that peptide. It's banned like in the NFL and in all of these sports things, but it's to help tendons, you know, and to help recovery of tendons and joints. And I'm like, so you'll shoot them up with steroids and let them ruin and trash their bodies with, you know, steroids, but you won't let them have something, you know, that their body makes, you know. Anyway, it's the whole peptide thing is going to get really interesting as, like you said, it's becoming more popular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But no DHEA for 2 years.
Yes. And I did take DHEA a couple of years ago. And when I looked at it, the ban was for 7 years. So I was like, I'm going to take this because I need it right now. But we just looked the other day and it said 2 years, but I was actually taking under the dosage amount that they would allow. So I could have done it either way, but at that time we had no idea. But yeah, it's very interesting. But then you can do like the NPC and you will never get tested. And you only are, so before the show, they do like a polygraph test on everyone. And then if you win, then they'll do a urine test. And immediately, like you get off stage and they take you immediately to the bathroom to do a test. So you can't like swap out or whatever people do. But then you can do like an NPC, which has no, like there's no testing at all. They're not saying that you do take, you know, other hormones or whatever, but they also don't test to make sure that you don't, which is exactly like when you watch, you know, the Arnold and all of that, and they're just gigantic. They're just not tested.
And the women look like men, which, you know, anyway, well, it's interesting. So the DHA thing for those listening. So DHA, it's made by the adrenal glands and it's a precursor to androgens. So to testosterone and then that can convert to DHT and to our estrogens and everything. And it's interesting because I have seen DHEA tanked since the pandemic with people with COVID infection. So it's kind of interesting that they would ban that because it's like, I just feel like the adrenals are very stressed out for people lately, but like DHEA. So sometimes we'll try men to help increase their androgens, increase their testosterone. We'll try DHEA, you know, a low dose first. So that's the scoop behind DHEA, but it is something you'd want to get tested and follow, but it peaks in our 20s and then starts declining, you know, 40s more so it starts declining. So it's important, but that's just such a fun world. I'm sure it's fun to be involved in that.
It is. Yeah, definitely is. I kind of stepped away, not that I won't ever do it again. I probably will after we're done having kids. I might lean in back into it. But I'm about to sign up for my first powerlifting competition or meet.
Ooh.
So that's kind of a different fun change because I'm breastfeeding my son and he'll be a year next week, but I plan to like extend breastfeed. And then we'll probably end up having more kids and things like that. So I needed something where I wasn't cutting my calories really low and hormones weren't affected. So I just said, I'm going to do powerlifting. And I hired a coach and it's been wonderful. And I'm really excited about it.
That is so cool. I didn't know that because I saw you were lifting a lot heavier, but I didn't know you were signing up for a competition. That's so fun.
I haven't really like mentioned it or announced it on social or anything like that, just because I just got through my first block of strength training. So I wanted to make sure that I was like going to actually do it but I just finished and now I'm going to go into my second one and we'll compete in August. So I'm excited about that.
Wow. So you're not really changing anything with your diet though for this, right?
No, just eat lots of food.
So you're bulking basically, right?
Yeah. And you don't have to eat like crazy. Everyone sees powerlifters and they think, oh, you have to be like gigantic. There's weight ranges and you don't have to eat like a crazy person. You just eat healthy and eat in a maintenance/surplus and you're fine.
That's awesome. So how is your protein requirements changing? Because if you eat too much protein, you can get out of ketosis. So how's that changing with you trying to build more muscle?
So my protein and fat are usually about equal, or my fat is like a little bit higher than my protein. That's always done best for me. I know some people do better with a higher protein. It's just not really my thing. I end up getting a lot of stomach issues and things like that when my fat's too low. So I'm still able to get in plenty of protein, but also plenty of fat. And I really find that like 1-to-1 ratio of protein to fat works really, really well for me. And then during pregnancy, I ate so much protein. Like it was wonderful. I loved it. And same thing. It was just my fat was just about equal. And when you're eating things like eggs or ground beef, those things are pretty much a 1-to-1 anyways, gram for gram. So it was pretty easy to just stay in ketosis and get plenty of protein. You just have to have also enough calories or be willing to eat enough food to get it all in, which I feel
That's a good point.
People oftentimes aren't eating very much.
Enough, right? They're not eating enough. Yeah, and sometimes like my patients, when I say you need to eat 30 grams of protein each meal, sometimes they're like, what? And I'm like, you need to focus on the protein and it will change everything, and a lot of women are dealing with blood sugar imbalance. So I bet you yours was just so steady during pregnancy, but did anyone freak out that you were doing keto when you were pregnant?
No, I kind of went an alternative route and had a midwife, and when I interviewed her, and actually the OB that I was seeing prior, and then I did also have to see an OB while I was seeing my midwife just for like state checks and things like that. But I just said, hey, this is what I do. This is why I do it. I hope that's not an issue. And she's like, do you eat meat and do you eat vegetables? And I said, yeah. And she said, we should be good. And I was like, okay, great. She's like, my main concern is with people who don't eat meat or don't have enough protein in their diet. And she said, I see nothing wrong with what you're eating. You're eating whole foods and you're eating healthy amounts and all that. So no one ever really had an issue. And I think probably because I didn't have any issues. I didn't have preeclampsia. I didn't have gestational diabetes or really any complications at all until the very, very end. But yeah, no one really had an issue. And I think it was because I was probably honest from the beginning and said, this is something I'm not willing to change unless you think it's not going to be for the betterment of me or my baby. And then they were like, it's great, keep going.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's just funny because our culture and our world is so crazy is that people be like, oh, keto. or does that Atkins or, or whatever, but they're cool with people eating McDonald's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. But, or, drinking pop while pregnant or something. It's like, no, this is healthy, and people just don't understand it, I think. And it also takes some discipline. I mean, it does, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are times when you struggle, like at birthday parties, or like, I guess, like, what's your biggest struggle with keto and like not wanting sweets?
I make my own sweets, which is really helpful. I will say, so I haven't had like an actual carb meal or um, sugar sweet or something like that in 6 years, because the first year I really struggled with it. I would binge on carbs and I would go eat like 20 cookies, and I just felt terrible. And I knew that I was putting myself in this like awful cycle of I do really, really well. I do really well. And then all of a sudden it's like I break and I just had to have it. So at one point I just said, I am making myself sick. Like this is not a good thing. And your body, it's a shock to your body when you do that. So I would spend the entire night throwing up or like in the bathroom because my body was just so shocked with it all. So I finally just said, okay, I'm done. I'm not doing that ever again. And so after that, it's more so explaining it to other people. And now that I've been doing it so long, no one cares. But I'd say that first like year where I just said I'm not going to do that anymore, people were like, why are you doing this? Are you still doing that keto thing? And that was hard because you had to kind of say, yeah, but I'm doing it for my health. I'm doing it because I feel better. And I think a lot of people could see that in me. I was like really depressed when I was going through all the issues with my stomach. And I think that they could see that I was a lighter, brighter person. I was happier, and um, it was still hard to try and explain it to them though. I think that was definitely the biggest struggle. But now that we've been doing it for so long, and my husband also does it, it's just our lifestyle. Like we don't really think twice about it. Um, it is how our business has evolved though. We just kind of started sharing about our journey, and Robert started coaching, and he started coaching for competition prep using the ketogenic diet, and we made the Keto Brick like we talked about. We made that to help him in his bodybuilding endeavors, and then people are like seeing it on our YouTube. What are you eating? What is that thing that you've made? And we kept it a secret for a while because we're like, well, maybe this will be a thing. We finally started producing it, and it's out in the world, and people are excited about it and love it. And we've been in business for 5 years now. So it's just pretty cool. It's been an ever evolving thing since we started, and we never anticipated this being our life.
Hmm. That's so exciting. Well, I think it starts with a passion. When you're passionate about something, health, it works, and you want to share it, and you want other people to feel good. Yeah, I think that's so important. And it's hard to be not the weird person, but like the family that doesn't eat the same as everyone else. And you feel like sometimes so alone, right? So I think it will be interesting to watch as your son gets older and maybe invited to things and sports, and people bring sports snacks. And I'm excited to see you go through that,
Yeah.
and see you navigate it, because it's hard. And so I guess I want to know, how has being a mother changed your routine? It hasn't changed your diet much, which is great, but how's it changed your routine and um, just business and all of this?
Yeah, it's changed a lot. He is wonderful. I've loved every second of it, but it definitely comes with its challenges. Just before we jumped on the podcast, he was having a meltdown. And it's just things like that. Like you just have to go moment by moment because that's just the way babies are. And in the beginning, I kind of took a slight step back from helping so much with the business, but um, I've had to step in a little bit more and more as time has gone on. So I've had to schedule my work after he goes to bed, after my husband goes to bed, I stay up and I work, and then I get to go to bed. So it's just a lot of navigating what's going to be best for our schedule, and it's ever evolving. It's constantly changing. At one point, I was waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to work out, and now I'm staying up until midnight finishing work. It really just it depends on where he's at in his phase of life, and I'm sure it'll just get harder as we add children to all of it, because then there's going to be multiple to navigate around. But it's definitely a struggle to figure it out from time to time, but worth it all. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's definitely it's worth it, but it's navigating, it's changing things. It's like you just have to like breathe and be like, okay, like I did not get what I wanted to get accomplished today. And that's okay, because that's what I have to start doing lately. I just, oh my gosh, this cat. See, and then I have these cats that are trying to drink my water. So I think that motherhood and being a business owner is definitely a struggle, because you want to keep pushing and pushing and go fast, and build. And then you're like, but here's my family, and this is so important. And that's why I love to support family-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, because I know it's so hard to juggle it, and putting value in the family and raising, strong kids is so important. So I think that's great. Like, so your biggest struggle was probably sleep, right?
Yeah, sleep can definitely take a toll. I do not do super well with a lack of sleep. I just noticed that my patience is a lot shorter and things like that. So I'm really trying to figure it all out. But staying up until about midnight, and then my son sleeps until about 7 or 8, which is just so weird for me because I'm usually a early riser. So it's been an adjustment to go to bed later and wake up a little bit later. And I don't love it because I usually like to like go down when the sun goes down and get up when the sun comes up. But that's not a thing right now. So I'm definitely trying to get in plenty of sleep. We had a phase where we had just started Keto Brick and just quit all of our own jobs and started coaching and all that we would not sleep. And we got to the point where it was just dangerous. Like we were dangerous to drive. It just wasn't good for our health. And since that point, we've really tried to put sleep as a priority. That I feel like I'm still getting, 7 or 8 hours, which is really good, but it's broken because my son still wakes up throughout the night. And so yeah, it's an interesting challenge right now for sure with the sleep thing.
Yeah. And that's the one thing with mothers, is that we have this sleep interruption when our kids are young. And your nutrition is probably what balances everything up in a good way, because your nutrition is always on point. So if you don't sleep as well some nights, that kind of makes up for it. Where if you have someone that's eating bad, not sleeping good, they're stressed out, then their health issues are gonna pop up. So I think when we realize, how important our diet is in the grand scheme of things, especially women, especially mothers, it's so big. And it's hard, I feel like. Do you have a lot of friends that do the same keto diet, or how do you navigate that?
No one locally.
Okay.
They're all just online. We've pretty much gone to every conference. Robert usually speaks and we'll have a booth or something set up. So we've made friends along the way that are online, which is a wonderful thing. I think it's important to have people close by, or like church family or whatever. But as far as like diet related, I find it all online, which I have a hard time sometimes with social media. I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel like we should all go off and never go on again. But at the same time, it can be a wonderful thing, because just like you are spreading so much great information that you would not be able to do had we not had social media or the internet. So I think it's really cool that we can have relationships with people across the US, across the world, that kind of make us feel at home in what we're doing, which is such a weird thing, but it's cool when you actually get to meet them face to face or hug them at a conference or whatever. It makes it extra special.
Yeah, I agree with you. It makes the world feel small. Cause yeah, I mean, around here, sometimes I feel like, there aren't a lot of like-minded people, or we're all just so busy. It's hard to connect. So I do like social media for that. You just have to clean up your news feed, and get
Yeah.
your favorites up there. But yeah, there are some good recipes that I want to try. It's hit or miss for my kids though. I mean, they sometimes I'll make something, I'll be like, this is so good. And they'll be like, this is gross. And I'll be like, okay, awesome. Like I tried. They're just so hit or miss. Like if I make like low carb like waffles I made one day, and like one of them liked them, one of them didn't, they're all over the place. So it's hard with the meals, but they really like hamburgers. It's just easy. But
Yeah, that's easy and it's great.
yeah. Yeah, family meals are tough. So I mean, so what does your son eat? He eats mainly carnivore, right? Or I mean, sorry, keto. Can
Yeah,
you
yeah, he eats we like for breakfast he'll have like a couple eggs with like yogurt in it or on the side, or for lunch he loves like sardines, loves them. So he'll have
really?
yeah, sardines or like cucumber, and I'll put a little bit of oil on top. Just like usually a little vegetable and a meat is just typically what we feed him. And I have had people give me a hard time. It's very, very rare, but they're like, isn't keto not for kids? It's made for kids with epilepsy and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm just feeding him whole foods and
Right.
fruit or in meat and vegetables and healthy fats. And he seems to be great. He's humongous.
What do they want him to eat? Now, I think that people that feed their little kids vegan, that's super dangerous.
Yeah.
Or vegetarian, that no, they need meat. It's really hard because in my practice, like vegan patients, they don't do as well. They don't recover as well. We can't like fix the issues as well. And there's like a honeymoon period for if when someone's vegan of like a year or two or maybe even 3. And then after that, I think it's a really small percent of people that can thrive on that diet. But like you said, you're just feeding them whole foods. Like, why do people have a problem with that? They shouldn't.
It is funny because they're feeding their kid, I don't want to say junk, but they're feeding their kids processed foods,
Right.
and they're more okay with it because it has a carbohydrate in it. And I'm thinking, I'm eating what comes from the ground and what we can grow and raise ourselves. That our ancestors have done for years and years and years. It's just interesting. It is interesting the way people come about it and some people are excited about it, and there are some people who are not so excited about it. But we have our family doctor, and he's like, your kid's great, keep going, you're doing wonderful. So
Yeah.
until there's a tiny, tiny thing where they say this is not good, then maybe we'll adjust. But um, he's doing great. He's fantastic.
I love that he eats sardines.
Yes,
That's
sardines and steak, and I'm like, great. This
yeah.
is going to be expensive, of course.
Yeah, like Emery, my 3-year-old, like he loves steak. He ate so many cool things. And then he's lately just been like fighting me on eating dinner and lunch, like real food, and just wants a snack. And then we're at baseball games and he wants popcorn. It's rough. I know it's a phase. I'm trying to not freak out, but we have snacks in our house. We have snacks, and they're healthy snacks, but they're not, right? They're not whole food, they're packaged. So this summer, there's no need for them. I'm going to hide them all. And the kids are going to go to the fridge for snacks. Like
Yeah.
this will be, they'll probably revolt and stuff. And this might be a problem, but I'm so over it. so over. And this kind of happens like throughout the school year, because sometimes they just, I mean, they don't even really need the snacks. I shouldn't make excuses, but sometimes I want them in their school to feel more normal, or, you know, because they'll say, why can't I have what the other kids have? So I think that's really hard. I wish everyone just ate whole foods, and then the weird ones were the ones with the package of potato chips.
Yeah.
Like, I wish it was the other way around, but it's not, you know, because big corporations and all where the money goes. So
I do love how you navigate things though, and you share it on Instagram, because it's not realistic for most people to just say, I'm going to not buy this stuff for my kids anymore. Maybe for you, because you kind of made like the steps towards that kind of stuff, but you share like, hey, I'm not going to buy these chips, but I'm going to buy these ones because they're better.
right.
And this is why. I think that makes it really, really realistic for people. When I share stuff, they're like, but how do I do that? You know, it's for me, I'm like, I've been doing this for a long time. It's been baby steps, and my son is a year. You know, like
Right.
he doesn't have the opinions yet. He's going to, and we'll
Right.
navigate that later.
Yeah. And that's the thing, you'll get to it when you have to deal with it. But for now, just keep going. And I think that's really important. And like when you first started keto, like I love how you were vulnerable and told us how you would have like binges, you know, with cookies. And I think I love that you shared that, because it wasn't easy for you to just get to where you were at. Like people might look at you now and be like, oh, it's easy for her and it won't be for me, or did she struggle, or why do I struggle? So I think that everyone needs to realize that we're all different. You know, don't compare your chapter 10 to their chapter 1.
Yep.
It's tough. And some days I totally feel like I'm failing. Like I'll just be like, I'll text Chip and I'll be like, oh my gosh, like it's a disaster. Like no one ate what I cooked. So now they're just going to eat snacks at this baseball game, even though they're, like I said, I'm putting air quotes up, they're healthy, you know, they're like pureed fruit only, you know, fruit bars or pistachio. I mean, well, Emery has been hogging down pistachios lately, but I just, you know, we have beef sticks, but it's tough. I mean, I think that just keep going. Anyone listening out there, make sure you keep doing baby steps, you know, even a little win. If your kids just eat like a bite of broccoli, that's better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, totally.
It's crazy, but I think that setting the example and sharing what you eat is really helpful for those that are looking to just eat healthier and eat whole foods.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It can definitely be a tricky thing to share, because everyone has their opinion. I have people who will jump on and be like, that's not keto. I'm like, okay. It's my way.
You're like, let me check my ketones.
Yeah, right. There we go. But yeah, it's fun to share. It really is fun to share. And I love seeing other people's journeys, because we all are different. We're so different. Everyone enjoys different things. Our bodies respond differently. I just really enjoy, sharing.
Do you use sugar sweeteners? Like, do you react bad to any of them? Like, I can't have erythritol. My body rejects that. And that's in a lot of the keto things. Like, I'm like, but
Yeah. I don't usually have things with sweeteners in it, but every once in a while we'll pick up like, what are those ice creams? Like the Rebel ice cream or something like that. And like within minutes, my stomach is rumbling and I'm like, I gotta go to the bathroom. And I think it's the erythritol in it. But and same thing, like I usually try to make things at home, and I usually am putting like monk fruit or stevia in it, but a lot of those have erythritol in it.
you have to read the labels. Yeah. It's so sneaky. It will say like monk fruit, and the first ingredient is erythritol. And I'm like, I like allulose.
I haven't really done a whole lot with allulose. At first we were like, no, like that's a no go. But I haven't actually tested it on myself to see how I respond or react to it. I just kind of see it as like another filler. So I'm like,
Right.
if I don't have to have it, then I won't.
Right.
And there's not really anything that I eat that would have it, because I do end up making a lot of my own stuff.
Yeah.
But it isn't a lot of food, and like even in recipes now too.
It is. Yeah, it's more popular. I like it better than erythritol. I mean, monk fruit's probably my favorite, and
Yeah.
then stevia. Do you ever do protein shakes?
I do actually. I really enjoy it as like my ice cream.
Right.
um, and I usually try to tell people, like, eat your meat before you have your protein, like, powders. But I do enjoy it, and I'll mix mine up with like protein, ice, some raw milk, and some heavy cream, or like MCT oil or something like that to it, and it's delicious. I love them
Yeah.
so much.
It really is. I add avocado and it makes it creamy.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. I want to try this like cottage cheese ice cream I saw like
Yes.
online. Have you had that?
I have seen it and I have not made it yet, but I'm like,
Okay.
oh my gosh, I have got to do that.
Well, the texture of cottage cheese makes me gag since I was like little. Like maybe now I'd be fine, but I think I tried it when I was little and it just grosses me out. But I think that I would like it now, and really like as ice cream, I would like that.
I do not like cottage cheese. My son loves it. I cannot eat it. It's just chunky and liquidy and weird.
Right.
Like, if I blend it, there's nothing I wouldn't like about that. And then
Right.
usually they add like a sweetener or some berries or something like that to it. And I'm gonna have to try
Or the
that.
protein, yeah, like a little protein powder, because then that will sweeten it
Yeah.
up. And
Yep.
yeah, you could top it. I've topped my things with like Keto Brick crumbles before, like a smoothie
Yeah.
bowl. And that's really good. And sometimes that will satisfy my sweet tooth, just like a bite of the Keto Brick. And people will be
Yeah.
like, "What are you eating?" And I'll be like, "Oh," and I'll tell them about it. And they'll be like, "Cool." And then, like this one cardiologist who like doesn't like fat, which is, I mean, but he's like still treating a bunch of sick people. So I don't know. So he was like, why are you eating fat? And I'm like, because it's good for my body and my hormones, and I'm a female and it makes my hormones. And he just looked at me. I'm like, okay.
You can judge me. It's fine. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I'm like, my blood markers are amazing. So there you go.
That's right.
Yeah, which I'm sure your fasting insulin is perfect, right? In
Yep.
your lab work, yeah.
Everything is really good. And Robert is, because he's doing his prep, he's actually checking his all of his labs all the way through, even like testosterone and stuff, which can usually dip at the end of a prep. So he's getting all that tested, and I love that, because you can really tell the difference between someone who uses fat and protects their hormones and protects their
Mhm.
metabolism and all of that along the journey, and those who are, high protein, high carb, and super, super low fat. And it'll tank you by the end of it. And they're walking around like zombies. But really, when you have a little bit of extra fat at the end of a cut or whatever, it really is so helpful. You still have a brain, like, you are able to do all the things. I mean, his testosterone might go down slightly, but it really stays in a really healthy range, which is just not typical, So
Yeah, that's a great point, because a lot of the times when the cholesterol is too low and then the testosterone starts to go down, you just let them eat fat again, or take them off their Lipitor or their statin, because that happens a lot if they're on something to block all that cholesterol, and that affects your hormones too. And I keep in my office this chart of cholesterol is the top of all the hormone cascade is cholesterol. And Americans are like worse off than they were before the low fat craze, and now vegetable oils are just making Americans sicker and sicker. And it's crazy. And we know it's all money and, based with politicians, lobbyists, blah, blah, blah. But it's really unfortunate. So that's why it's so important to have people like you and Robert out there that are like telling people how to live healthy and not eat processed junk, all of that.
Yep. It's so refreshing to have like conversations like this, because you just feel like you're off in this land of like, what is happening with the world? Why are people following, what is pushed on them? And then you talk to people like you, and it's like, oh, thank goodness. Someone in healthcare too,
Yeah.
that is preaching and doing the things that you're seeing through all of the fog, I should say.
Yes. Yes, all the indoctrination and it's crazy. And I'm so happy that we do have things like podcasts and Instagram to share this knowledge in real life too. Like, you're a mother and a business owner, because I think that's the other thing for real women to follow, all these people that are just, they're influencers, right? And that's all they do. And they don't have to struggle like real life things like, oh, my son doesn't feel good today, so I can't work out, or we'll just go on a walk, or, or I'll hold him while I lift weights, or maybe I'm not going to eat as clean as I want to today because we don't have time or something came up. So I think that is reassuring that there's people like you doing this kind of lifestyle out there, and it's changed your health.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is eye-opening to watch everyone do life in their own way. Like for you, you have your own business, you have kids, you have your husband, you have all the in sports games and all the things all the time. And
The
I'm
circus.
like, how does she do it?
It's a circus. Well, today I was like, oh gosh, the baseball game was so long. Like, my one son has a runny nose and is coughing. The one, little Emery that sometimes gets respiratory stuff. And, my husband is traveling. So he's out of town, and I've been just doing it all on my own. And I'm just like, okay, let's breathe. You can get through this. You're strong. Like, you're going to record this podcast tonight and be excited about it, because this is what you're meant to do. These cats are crazy. And I have these cats to feed, which are the family pets, but who feeds them every day? I do. So that's a pro tip. If you are a mother and you want a pet, or your family wants a pet, just realize it's your pet. It's not the family's, because it will not survive. It will not survive if you don't feed it. No, but I like feeding the cats, because they all love me, so it's when my kids are being crazy, then, I can just love on a cat. But yeah, we all go through it. And, cortisol which is the stress hormone, can be such a deterrent to where women want their body to be, and your sex hormones. So I think that just, if you are juggling too much, ask for help. And, I've done that before. I've asked friends for help. I've asked my husband for help, even getting the kids rides to things. So I think that that's important. And now that my kids are older, I ask them for help.
Yeah.
And for me, that has been so hard, because I don't like asking for help. So I'm like, I'll just do it myself instead of asking, and it will be done right. But you can't, you need to ask. So that's another tip I've learned to really help my mental health in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'm not a ask for help person. I hate it. I hate it so much, but it's definitely something that I have been having to learn a lot lately. If I want to get anything done, if I want to do something for even a workout, he's to the point where he's crawling so fast and he's just about on the edge of walking.
Aww.
And it's like, I cannot keep him with me. He's just running away as I'm trying to do my workout. So it's just, it's fun, but it's definitely an adjustment. You have to just go with the flow and ask for help.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard for type A women to do this. And really, we were meant to have a village, and even if it's just calling a friend and bouncing ideas off of them can be helpful, taking some of that off, that burden off. So Crystal, can you tell us a little bit about your business and then Keto Brick also, for those that don't, like, they're like, what are they talking about with Keto Brick?
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit more about your actual business?
Yeah. So Lady Savage is just mostly where I do all my coaching. I do like workout programs, and I also do nutrition, keto only, just because that is where I excel in. And then Keto Brick is it's actually 1,000 calorie meal replacement bar, which you do not have to replace a meal. You can melt it down and put it into smaller amounts, or like you were saying earlier, just take a bite out of it. I melt it down into these little tiny servings and give it to my son, and he loves it. So there's lots of different ways to eat it. We have recipes and stuff with them as well. There's a bunch of different flavors. I think right now we have 7 staple flavors, and then we randomly come out with like limited editions. We do really fun giveaways. This last month we did a giveaway on a Yoder grill, like a smoker. And we have plans to do a lot of other ones. We've done a kayak, and it's just fun. We try to have a little bit of fun with it and make it a little bit different. It really is us making them. We have a small crew, but they're small but mighty. They're like our everything. They're like our family. And then we have our apparel as well, which is just something that's slowly growing for us. But you wear all of these different clothes, and you don't know who's making it and where it's coming from and all that. So we're doing it all made in the US. From start to finish is all in the US. So that's another thing that we do. We're just all over the place.
No, it's pretty consistent, on point with everything and your values. And yeah, I love the Keto Brick's good. Like, I will just carry it around with me. And if I'm like feeling hungry, because if I'm doing some fasting, and it curbs off cravings like really well. It's great. And Emery will just like gnaw on some. So he'll just, because it's good. It tastes sweet and creamy.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy them. So where can we find you at? Can you share your website and Instagram handle?
Yeah. So my website is ladysavage.com. And then my Instagram is the.lady.savage, which is annoying because Lady Savage was already taken.
It comes up if you just type in Lady Savage, because I was like typing it to find you because I couldn't find you in the messages, and I was like, I'm gonna be late because the baseball game. So it comes up. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad. And then Keto Brick is just on everything as Keto Brick. We also have a YouTube channel, which is under Live Savage. We're implementing a little bit more homestead type stuff into it. So that is also a little bit fun as well.
Oh, that's so fun. Yeah, I love the homesteading. And then you're going to keep us updated about your powerlifting, right?
Yes, I should be announcing, I don't know, it seems silly to like announce it online. But I'll be sharing about it. As soon as I actually sign up for the meet, I'll just share about it. I mean, I'm telling people here and there. But I'll actually start sharing a little bit more and kind of like about the coaching and all that kind of stuff that I've hired a coach. Cause it's a fun journey. It's a lot of fun. So I'll definitely keep you guys updated.
Awesome. That's so exciting. Well, good luck with that. And thank you so much for sharing about your lifestyle and motherhood and everything you do.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.